Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here. Look at all the paint on my table. I can't fit my entire palette, my extended palette on here. So I'm going to go through the colors and then I'm going to push everything out of the way. And this is the final lesson of the Burnt Sienna series. Oh, it's creating the Burnt Sienna Hue string. So what that is taking burnt sienna and then adding little bits of all the colors in the color wheel to find out what the initial hue mix is. This is only mixing one pigment. I mean, you can go forever on this. So what I've got here, so I've got the Decor Traditions. I've got Phthalo Green Yellow, Phthalo Green Blue, Phthalo Blue. Actually, let me back up. Phthalo Green Yellow, a green that leans towards yellow. Phthalo Green Blue, a green that leans towards blue. Phthalo Blue, a blue that leans towards green. Ultramarine Blue, a blue that leans towards violet. Red Violet, a violet that leans more towards blue. Quinacridone Violet, a violet that leans more towards red. Permanent Alizarin Crimson, a red that leans towards violet. Naphthol Red, a neutral red that leans slightly, a teeny tiny bit towards blue. Naphthol Red Light, a red that leans towards orange. Paranone Orange, which is basically to me more of a neutral orange, might have a speck more red in it, but I would call it neutral orange. Handsy Yellow Medium, a yellow that leans towards orange. You can't see that. Handsy Yellow is more of a neutral yellow. Handsy Yellow Light, a yellow that leans towards green. Yellow Oxide, which is a neutral yellow orange. It's more on the yellow side. Transparent Yellow Iron Oxide, same pigment as Yellow Oxide, but it's transparent. Raw Sienna, a yellow orange that's semi-transparent and a little bit darker. Transparent Red Iron Oxide, it's along the same line as Burnt Sienna but more transparent, but two different pigments. It's a red orange. It's a neutral. Then we have our Burnt Sienna. I've got Carbon Black and then Titanium White for the value part. I'm going to need two palettes for this. And this particular lesson, we only started doing the hue string in the neutrals because to do this with all the colors would be a major challenge. But we need to do this as we're getting close now to the end of our palette. After this, we have Burnt Umber, Raw Umber, and then Carbon Black versus Chromatic Black. Then that's it. We're going to define what our limited palette is. We're going to define what our extended palette is. And then your massive assignment is on your own time is to create a hue string for every color in your palette. And I'm going to show you a way to make it super easy and to do it as a wall chart. All right, so I'm going to push all this out of the way. And when doing this, it may seem tedious, but the whole process when you're working with color mixing is you can't just watch the videos and say, yeah, I know how to do that. No, you can't. I've had people do that and just say, well, I already know how to do it. I'm not going to do the work. And then when they ask a question, well, how do I do this? And I'll say, well, did you watch the color theory video? Well, no. Well, you got to do the work. You got to apply it because your mixes will always be different. Your you may be heavier handed on one and not the other. You have to know how to read color. So I've been doing this for dinosaur ages years, and I am always learning something new with this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your grid chart, and I'm going to do this with big marker. And this is going to be a bit of a longer video. I may fast forward over. Do I want to fast forward over some parts? No, not really. I'd rather do this in real time, but you can always skip ahead if you want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Burnt Sienna, and then we're going to add touches of the other colors. So we need to write down what our colors are. And by now you should know the acronyms, but you're going to write down the colors that you have. And if you don't know what the pigment numbers are, try to write as much detail, paint brand, the colors that are in them. I'm even including Naphthol Red and Handsy Yellow, which are neutrals, Naphthol Red Light, and then Paranone Orange. Then I'm going to go down here, and we're going to go Handsy Yellow Medium, Handsy Yellow Light, and then we're going to go Yellow Oxide, Transparent, Yellow Iron Oxide, Raw Sienna, Typically in the palette would be Burnt Sienna in here. We're going to go transparent red, iron oxide, the tube one, not the DIY one. And then we're going to go carbon black. And let's do Burnt Sienna and then titanium white, just so we have something there. All right. So you should be able to see. The paint's in my way. Mia's at Briar Meadows right now for her weekend getaway. Joe and I are going to a wood turning event tomorrow. We're going to be making Christmas ornaments out of wood on a lathe. And we don't want to leave her alone for a whole 8 hours because she has severe separation anxiety. So the nice thing is that the kennel opens half an hour before we have to be there. So we have to bring her today. And the kennel will be closed when the class is finished, so we have to leave her overnight for 2 nights. Mia loves it. She loves it. She would rather stay there. So I'm going to start off with this one, Burnt Sienna and Titanium White, just to get a idea of the underlying color. I forgot to put the actual mixture by itself. Now you may also need for this one here, you may need to empty out your bucket, your water container once. Maybe do it after this one because this is a really light colors here. You want to make sure that your brush isn't contaminated. So the purpose of this exercise is to basically give you a very, very quick overview of mixing the colors, every single color with the target color, which is Burnt Sienna. What we're going to do, we're going to take Burnt Sienna and add a little bit of the mixing color. The other way to do it, which is going to be the master chart, you're going to do one part, which is like Burnt Sienna with just a little bit of, let's say, phthalo green. Then the next part is going to be Burnt Sienna with a lot more phthalo green. So you're going to have it go on both sides. So Burnt Sienna here, and then you're going to have it more on the phthalo green. Okay? So, for example, we're going to take Burnt Sienna, and then we're going to add a speck of phthalo green. So it's still more on the Burnt Sienna part. And then the other mixture, and it's a completely different format than this, you would add even more phthalo green. And I'm going to give you a hint. Oh, you know what? Didn't make enough paint. This color, if you're into portrait painting, people painting portrait, blah, 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 painting people portraits. I just realized the last video I didn't ask you any pop quiz questions. This is a mixture right here that you're probably going to end up liking to use. Add white. For those of you that have done my color mixing course and challenges over the last few years, what color do you think that looks like? So now, and I'm not gonna go over what's in there. By now you should know what's in the colors. So now Burnt Sienna and Phthalo Green Blue. This is the one that's gonna give you a really interesting mixture. Burnt Sienna is a neutral red-orange, red-orange. Phthalo Green is a green that leans towards blue. So ask yourself, what do you think is going to happen to the color? As soon as I add white, you're going to see. But what do you think is going to happen with it? This is where I need to do these is, let's say, like a Facebook Live or something, or a Zoom, one of our Zoom get-togethers, where I can do this part and then not add the white for the true underlying color till you answer the question. I'm going to add a bit more white there to try to match the value. Nice. So the ones who were going to answer this question, is this a better choice for that color match? I don't know if you guys will know quite really, because I don't. This is a color mix that I don't use. It's very specific, the use for this particular color. I don't know if you're gonna. I guess you can use it for dark sand, dirt, mountains, hillsides. Yeah, you could use that. Take that, add a bit of red to it. You get a burnt umber. So let's take our burnt sienna. And on the side here is just a palette with all the colors. And then we're going to take a speck of phthalo blue. And I say speck, I mean speck. And I'm not being conservative right now. I'm being cheap with the paint. Not enough blue. You want to add enough paint to make a difference, but not too much paint that it overpowers. So at face value, this looks like a really, excuse me, a really nice rich brown. Add the white to see the true underlying color. Add a bit more white to try to match the value. We want to try to keep the values the same. Nice. Like a sandy color. I like that. All right. Burnt Sienna and Ultramarine Blue. Pop quiz. What does Burnt Sienna and Ultramarine Blue make when it comes to my mixing? My method of mixing. What does it make? What do I use Burnt Sienna and Ultramarine Blue for? That's pop quiz number 1. Pop quiz number 2. When making that special mix, why do we have to add more ultramarine blue? Nice. You see, everything's kind of dull right now, right? Because you're taking colors that are opposite on the color wheel. Burnt Sienna, red, orange. Opposite of red, green, green. Phthalo blue leans towards green. Ultramarine blue leans towards violet. It's still not quite opposite, but you're still on the opposite. Red, violet. Only needed a little bit of that one because it is super strong. Ooh. Wait a minute. Okay, let me add white because I want to. Okay, when I get to it, I'll check it. Remind me. One of these days I'm going to have a dream of me saying that, and then the hand is going to come out from the microphone and go. Okay. Burnt Sienna. Quinacridone Violet. Oh. I don't do these mixes very often. So when I see them, I just get so excited. Yeah, I need a life. Color mixing gets me so excited. Never mind. You know where the color mixing, you may say, well, I don't need to know color mixing. I don't really take painting seriously. If I didn't paint, do you know where the color mixing knowledge comes into play? When Joe and I make our river tables, I make my resin jewelry, we make our resin cutting boards, charcuterie boards, all that stuff, the custom pens that I'm making out of wood and resin. I add raw pigments. It's not paint. I add raw pigments, powdered pigments. And I have to color mix the pigments. The pigments do not tell me pigment numbers. I have to manually, by hand, by brain. I can't make charts because you have to mix the pigments with something. So I take wood, drill holes, mix up the resin with the pigments, and put it in these holes to make like a wood sampler. That's where where I use up the knowledge for the color mixing. I mean, it comes out. You're making a cake and you need frosting, special colored frosting. You don't have, Tutti Frutti Pink. You have to make it. So you look at what color is to Tutti Frutti Pink. Where's lean on the color wheel? Brighter, dark, brighter, dull, lighter, dark. Look at what you have. Mix something up. Ask yourself those questions again. You can color mix icing. So I mean, you'll come up with something in your life. Choosing your paint, your wall color for your choosing your wall color. Yeah, choosing your wall color. Permanent Alizarin Crimson. I think I'm cheaping out on paint here. You know, if you say, well, I want a white, or I want, let's say, a gray that leans towards blue violet, it'll be much easier for you to pick that color. You'll have people that, you know, whoever you get your paint, look at you, go, what? Just go get a chart from the wall and just bring it back to us and we'll mix it up. When I get paint well, especially Home Depot, they look at me like with a confused look on your face. What do you mean it's too blue? What do you mean it's too red? That's how they mix up their paints. Their machines have these things for the pigment. That's how they do it. Okay, that was Permanent Alizarin Crimson. So now I'm going to use Naphthol Red Light. I'm running out of room on my SD card for filming. I'm going to have to stop the video and go to a new card. So I'll be right back. There we go. Hopefully the video didn't cut out. Okay, so now Naphthol Red. So we haven't used this in a long time. You'll get to why I'm going in a little bit. I can hear Joe. He's talking to a client. He's down in the home office, which is in the basement. I'm 2 floors up. I can hear him through the vent. I know which customer she's talking to by the creative language he's using. There's just some clients that they just they love using the F-bomb. They love dropping the F-bomb. Oh my goodness. And Naphthol Red Light. Not too much. So we've got here, it's a pretty well a neutral palette of colors, all with Burnt Sienna. Again, I keep asking this, can you imagine, like, do you appreciate exactly how much money you're saving by sticking with even just an extended palette? You're still saving a ton of money. Never mind, working with a limited palette is even better. The reason why I say an extended palette is so you don't have to go into overwhelm about color. The extended palette are the colors that take more time to mix than to have on hand. Like cerulean blue is one. If you're going to be painting seascapes as your primary thing, use cerulean blue as a base if you don't want a color mix. Okay, Hansa Yellow. Oh, no, I missed one. Peridot Orange. Yeah, a little bit of orange. So this was the one we did with the experiment for the transparent red iron oxide. I still love this one. Although it's not a perfect match, it's still a nice one. So these actually make some nice skin tone mixes. You'd have to go much whiter than that. Shadows. I'm not giving you guys any hints on these ones. Okay, so now we've got our Burnt Sienna and paint. Hansa Yellow Medium. That one I'm going to take a little bit more because it's weaker. A lot more transparent. Now, I went a little too heavy on the yellow on that one. Let me add a bit more burnt sienna there. It's a little bit too heavy. It also lightens the burnt sienna. Okay. So now we're going to take our burnt sienna and our Hansa yellow, which we haven't been using a lot because it's just not necessary. Naphtha red and Hansa yellow are in my extended palette. It's a color, they're colors that they're there. I don't use them. You know what? I use them more when I'm teaching color theory. I don't use them a lot. But sometimes you just make a mix that you just can't get any other way. The extended palette really is nice, especially when you're working commissions, when color matching needs to be more precise. Somebody's paying you, hundreds of dollars to do a portrait of, their family member or their dog or whatever. You need to get the colors. Unless you're doing something abstract, you need to get the colors accurate. So Hansa Yellow Light with Burnt Sienna. We haven't done this one. Again, transparent and lighter. So you see they're going dull, brighter, 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 brighter. So they're getting brighter. They're still dull, but they're getting brighter as we get through the color wheel. Now, as we're getting now into the neutrals, they're going to become naturally duller. That's way too much yellow oxide. Okay, add white. A bit more white, match the value. Okay. Burnt sienna. Hopefully I have enough room here. And transparent yellow iron oxide. I'm going to roughly do this one with equal parts because the transparent yellow iron oxide is really transparent. I don't even think that made much of a difference. Yeah, and that's not bad. It didn't make too much of a difference, but it's not bad. And burnt sienna with raw sienna. Not too much of a difference on that one either. Raw sienna is, again, it's a yellowish orange. Semi-transparent. You have a lot more time than I do. Try to put 2 layers over your mixes so you don't see any of the white of your paper. Burnt sienna and transparent red iron oxide. This is a bit of a useless mix for me anyways, because once the bottles are once the bottle's gone, I won't be buying it anymore because Deco d'Art doesn't make it anymore, and it makes me sad. See, I say that all the time when I use that. Hopefully it'll get to them with how sad it is for me. And it would be nice for them to start making it again. So when I was going, I was looking at the mixes that I was doing here. At face value, these mixes look very, very close to this. But as I add the white, I think, no, these are much too red. And if anything, I mean, that's actually pretty nice, this one right here. But when you add the white, if I had to add the white, then no, it wouldn't work out. But at face value, it's actually pretty good. But anytime you use transparent red iron oxide, you really wouldn't be adding white to it. So at face value, it's fine. And then we're going to use burnt sienna with a little bit of carbon black. This actually should have been up here because we were going dark, bright, 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 bright. So like I said, this video is much longer, so speed it up if you want. But if you're new to color theory, please watch the whole thing. Yeah, I should have put that up here. Oh, done. Oh my God. That's a long video. Alrighty, so interesting mixtures. Going with the transparent red iron oxide. This is the experiment I like the best. So at face value, even Paranone orange looks really good, but mixing with the white, there's not much of a. This is still a little bit more orange. But Hansi Yellow Medium is way too yellow. So this is why with the Hansi Yellow Medium and Naphtha Red Light, I think it worked out the best. But in a crunch, if you had to do this in a crunch, at face value, you could use Permanent Alizarin Crimson, Quinacridone Violet, or even Paranone Orange at face value, meaning you'd use the paint pure without adding white. But if you had to add white for some reason that's unknown to me, go with Naphtha Red Light and Hansi Yellow Medium or Paranone Orange, and you won't go wrong. You won't go wrong. So there you go. So I'm looking forward to seeing your color mixing chart. If you have the time, you can do it where, you've got burnt sienna with a little bit of the mixing color, and then do a little bit more of the mixing color and a little bit more of the mixing color. So you can do that as an alternative way to really experiment and see what the colors can do. Post your pictures and comment below with any questions that you had. If you're watching this on YouTube, you need to go to the description in the video, click on the link for the community, and post your pictures over there because you can't post pictures on YouTube. Alrighty, so that's it for Burnt Sienna, people. Yay! We got that done. So that's it for this. So the next segment that we're going to be working on will be Burnt Umber. The good thing with burnt umber is that it's not a core color. We don't have to have it because we can make it up ourselves with what? I covered that in the last video. And then I think the video before that, I covered that off. I think I covered it in one of the last two videos. We can make burnt umber if we don't have it. So it's not a core color. It's in the extended palette, but if you're huge into painting a certain subject, it may be handy for you to have it in your arsenal. Alrighty, so I'm going to clean up, and that's it for a bit. I'm going to take a bit of a break, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay inspired.